So one of my weirder predictions in my pre-debate breakdown involved Bill de Blasio, and I said the following. The big winners, I think what we're going to see is... I don't know, it's a tough one. It's a tough one because I just don't know how Elizabeth Warren is going to do. I think Tulsi will do well, but I think she has to be aggressive in order to make a name for herself and not, do any sort of political calculation, which oftentimes she doesn't. So she might be good in that sense, but I would tell her you have to be aggressive. I think that it'll be a random surprise, man. I think that we might be walking away going like Bill de Blasio held his own. Like, there's going to be a surprise. It ain't going to be Cory Booker. It ain't going to be Bet on My Stork. It ain't going to be Julian Castro. It's possible to Elizabeth Warren. I think there's a chance that Bill de Blasio will, perform better in the debates than he is as a candidate. Now, will that reflect in the polls afterwards in terms of him getting an actual bump from the debates? That's yet to be seen, and honestly, even if he does get a bump, what are we talking about? He goes from 0% to 3%? Wow. But yeah, I think it's going to be a random surprise winner of that first debate. I think either Tulsi or like Bill de Blasio will stand out, and then also Elizabeth Warren is a 50-50 proposition. Yeah, well... That's exactly what happened. Bill de Blasio was the biggest surprise in terms of candidate who held his own. Now, there was one absolutely grotesque answer where, they were asked, what's the biggest threat to the U.S.? And he said, Russia. Cheap applause line. People in the audience liked it, but it's just a disgusting and incorrect answer, and I hated it. But outside of that, he really had some strong moments. So let me show you one of those here.
This country, because look at the bottom line here. That tragic photo of that parent, that child. And I'm saying this as a father. Every American should feel that in their heart, and every American should say that is not America. Those are not our values, but we have to get under the skin of why we have this crisis in our system, because we're not being honest about the division that's been fomented in this country. The way that American citizens have been told that immigrants somehow created their misery and their pain and their challenges. For all the American citizens out there who feel you're falling behind, who feel the American dream's not working for you, the immigrants didn't do that to you. The big corporations did that to you. The 1% did that to you. We need to be the party of working people, and that includes a party of immigrants. But first, we have to tell working people in America who are hurting that we're going to be on their side every single time against those big corporations who created this mess to begin with. And remind people we're all in this together. If we don't change that debate, that politics that's holding us back, we won't get all these reforms people are talking about. That's what we need to do as Democrats. There was a lot of that throughout the night. A lot of strong, persuasive arguments like that he made. And he definitely led the charge, man. He did that on the War Powers Act and foreign policy. He did that on Medicare for All, although he did walk into the trap with Elizabeth Warren of the misframed question. But putting that aside, there was a lot of that. He definitely surprised a lot of people. Now, again, what I said previously I still think is correct. Is he going to get a bump? Yeah, maybe, but I don't know how big it'll be because he was polling so low to begin with, so I really don't know. But that shows he's a force. Bill de Blasio could play politics with the best of them, and he can make an argument with the best of them. And he sounded most engaged of everybody on stage. It was a good performance. It really was. He came out of nowhere. He's making arguments that the left wants to hear. He's doing it in a better way than most candidates. And the problem is, he's just a fraud. Again, the point I always go back to with Bill de Blasio is he ran a super progressive campaign when he became mayor of New York City. And then in the 2016 Democratic presidential primary, he endorsed Hillary Clinton over Bernie Sanders. You can't have it both ways. Either you endorse Hillary Clinton, which means you're more centrist, or you endorse Bernie, which means you're a lefty. To endorse Hillary over Bernie, the most centrist establishment candidate, over the most progressive non-establishment candidate, you're showing your cards. So I don't care what you say, I care what you do. Now, has he done some decent things in New York City? Yes, he has. But is that enough to make up for the sin of picking Hillary over Bernie?
Not when you have Elizabeth Warren in the race, not when you have Bernie Sanders in the race, not when you have Tulsi Gabbard in the race, because their records are significantly better than Bill de Blasio. But having said that, it was a strong performance, and I don't know the details. I don't know how many people know the details of Bill de Blasio to begin with, so if they're unaware of that, then yeah, it could get interesting. So very curious to keep an eye on those polls to see if there is a bump for him afterwards. It's possible, but again, he's got a lot of work to do to make up for how behind he is. But this was a good start, and that's pretty much universally recognized. Everybody who I saw talk about this debate kind of admitted that, yep, de Blasio seemed to do maybe the best of everybody on stage. At worst, just top three.